preparing to live stream the meeting.
Meeting is streaming.
Fantastic. Hello, everybody. Okay, so I got over my technical hurdles of getting this meeting live on Facebook. So for people who don't know me, I'm Jenny Stone. I do all the training for Yoga for Cancer for the Yoga Teachers Forum. And I'm here today to talk about the in-depth training course, which will be coming up in September. And I have one of my lovely course graduates here with me, Nicky Dye, and we're just going to have a little bit of a chat about the course to give you a bit of insight about what it's like to take part in the course and maybe some of the impact it has, what some of the content is like. And if you have any questions, then do feel free to pop them in the comments below, and we will get back to those as soon as we can. So I guess probably the place to start is to ask you, Nicky, what was it that initially got you to sign up to the course? What kind of spoke to you, and why was it something you needed?
I think for me, I had been asked by the director of breast cancer surgery at the Cromwell Hospital to be his yoga provider. And I wanted to upskill and make sure that I could offer the best possible service, best possible yoga that I could. I'm lucky enough to not have any experience of close friends or family going through a really awful time, but it meant that I didn't know, as much of the biology and as much of the journey that I maybe could have known.
Yeah,
experience.
That's interesting. Actually, there's this mixed blessing in having a personal experience when you're a teacher, in that your personal experience will give you a little bit of insight into what hospital appointments might be like and some of that journey, but also because everybody's kind of diagnosis and treatment and experience is different, sometimes it's good when you come at it fresh and you don't have an idea already in mind, that it can be different for other people too. So yeah, I think it's equally valid either way. And I've certainly had a mix of students who some of whom have come because they know somebody, and some of whom have come and they don't have a personal experience, but there's something come up in their work where they feel they need the training, which is what happened with you. So yeah, everybody's welcome. And I've had people with a current diagnosis and treatment on the course as well. So that's possible. If that's something that people feel that they can manage with, that can be really helpful.
Yeah, and I also think the likelihood of having somebody in your class who's experiencing cancer or coming back to class after surviving cancer, I think it's very high. So it's part of your kind of, ethics to kind of be prepared for that and give them the best possible experience.
Yes, no, absolutely. It's a really good point. And we're at this sort of awful statistic of nearly having 1 in 2 people with some sort of diagnosis in their lifetime. So yeah, the chances of having somebody in your class are going to be really high. And that's kind of what prompted me wanting to create the trainings a few years ago, was realizing there's so many people going through treatment and living beyond treatment who need a special kind of yoga. And I don't know that there's enough out there. So I wanted to train as many teachers as possible so they can all offer classes to people. And I think the longer you're in teaching, like the more people who do show up in your class. And it might not be that they're in active treatment. It might be they show up in class and they had breast cancer 5 years ago, but maybe they had a full lymph clearance and you want to still be careful at that point, you know. So even when people sort of look and feel quite normal, there may be things that we need to be a bit mindful of, that we don't trigger lymphedema, or, you know, they might have issues with bone density or those sorts of things. So
yes, and I think that's another reason that I wanted to be really aware of any contraindications that are a little bit more than your kind of overall therapeutic yoga, because I do one-to-one sessions for therapeutic yoga, but even so, it's amazing to have a training with somebody who has so many years experience in a specific field, because that really is such an expertise. So that was a really big pull to the training as well.
Oh, fantastic. And so it'll be interesting for me to hear as well. So how was your experience kind of on the course itself? So the way I run it, for those who don't know, is that we have a 3-hour Zoom once a week. And so it's spread over time. So you have a bit of time to digest the information. There's a bit of homework every week to really embed your knowledge. And we meet live as a group each week. So how was that process for you?
And that was really good, actually. And it was nice that it wasn't like a whole day or 6 hours, because I've done similar trainings like that. And it really is, I mean, your mind is just like so tired at the end of it. And I think 3 hours is a really nice amount of time. And then having little bits of homework each week, it wasn't arduous and it was really useful. So some of the homeworks obviously are not just around, say, a class plan for somebody at a certain stage with either active or past cancer experience, but, you know, bringing in the business elements and refreshing your terms and conditions and things like that were really, really useful. So, yeah, a nice spread of different homeworks as well. And I have to say, I was so impressed with the length of feedback from the homeworks. It was way more than I expected.
Thank you.
Really useful.
Yeah, I think it's been a little bit of a bugbear of mine when I've done training. Apart from my initial teacher training, where I did get very intense feedback, but when I've done sort of postgraduate training, as it were, and I've loved the course and they've set some homework and then you don't hear anything back about it. And then I think, well, I don't know if it was okay then. And I, you know, were there some things I could tweak? What bits did I nail and what bits have I maybe missed the point or could, so yeah, it's something, and that's why I limit the numbers on the course, because I can't do that for 50 people. And also it's about having a group of people who can get to know each other. And I think if you have too many people, you sort of lose that cohesiveness as a group as well. So yes, I'm glad that worked in that sense. And yeah, it's nice to know that my feedback was read and valued. Because I think that's such an important part, because then otherwise, if no one ever tells you, you don't know like if it's ideal or not. And I think it's a big part of the learning is getting the feedback.
And also not just a kind of right or wrong, or this was good, or this was, the tweaks of like, you could also maybe do this, or, you know, it's like, oh yeah, that would be a nice idea. And, you know, adding to it as well.
Yes, and because everybody on the course is already a qualified yoga teacher, so it's a good foundation there, but maybe sometimes it's just a reframing or a little reminder. It's like, oh, there's probably some other stuff that you know already, and it would work quite well in this part of your lesson plan. And yeah, so that's all a big part of it, and why I feel it's really different from reading a book on the subject, because you have that interaction and the feedback with it and a bit of support as well. Because for some people, some things get a little bit emotional as well, especially if they do have some personal connection going on. So I can't remember in your cohort everybody who was on it, but did you sort of, was there much communication between you sort of in between, or how did that sort of group thing feel?
Yeah, there wasn't much in between, but having said that, I felt it was a really cohesive group, and I enjoyed the number of people and having that group from week to week on the Saturday mornings.
Yeah, and just sort of having a space where we can sort of check in and share what's going on, and yeah, have that, like, that support's there if it's needed. So yeah, I like that, to create something where that starts to become a little bit of a potential support network.
Because I guess I have come back to the group after the training and asked an odd question here and there, and really, I think trainings that have a community that last afterwards is really valuable.
Yes, and that was something that was really important to me as well, because again, I've met some amazing people on a residential, and then like if you don't quite grab their phone number at the time, everyone sort of disappears, and it's like, oh, it would have been really nice to stay in touch with somebody, or to have that little check-in. And it's also why I set up the Facebook group as well, for there just to be a place where people can come back to and reconnect and ask questions. And yeah, and I guess, looking at the sort of, I wanted to create a course that was quite holistic. And for me, it's not only, although it's important, like understanding the biology and the treatment and the side effects and the physiology stuff, but also kind of a lot of the personal development as a yoga teacher as well, that being able to hold space and being able to like absorb maybe difficult stories. And how are you are you in practice now, having been approached to do that breast cancer work? Are you running a class there now?
Yes, I don't run a group class, but I do one-to-one.
Yes. So I imagine now, since the course, possibly you've been alongside people going through difficult things.
Yes, absolutely, and not just experiencing cancer, but any kind of emotional, any kind of emotional aspect really that goes out of kilter, or trauma or anything really. I use a 5-element approach in Chinese medicine to kind of provide that holding space. And for me, I'm very relaxed actually about hearing really big challenges through life, and I just think we can treat what presents the most in that time, and we have such an impact as yoga teachers, as you say, holistically, to just allow people to come into that space of healing.
And so with the work that you do, is there a common thread of what those people are looking for from their yoga, or does it vary a lot?
Yeah, that's a good question. There is variety in there. It can go from, like a private yoga class of just like a nice yoga sequence to, a more traumatic experience in the therapeutic space. But generally there is an emotional something that's kind of being held in the body and needs a release in order to move on.
Yes, and because it's not just a biological thing that's happening with somebody when they have cancer diagnosis and treatment. It's, as we sort of talked about, that holistic impact, it's on all those different layers. And that's where yoga is such a powerful tool, because we're not just a movement thing. No,
and I often get people coming and arriving and saying, well, I've experienced cancer in the last year, and I'm now suffering from acute anxiety and fatigue. And they might hear words such as come to yoga for stress and anxiety, or for flexibility or backache. You know, they seem to be the kind of things that draw you in. Like, oh wow, it's so much more.
Yes.
Yeah, especially if you can kind of draw in some yoga philosophy and some nice poetry, anything that really you can feel. And I think it's a really intuitive space, because it depends on what people bring in the room as to how you can react. You might have a plan, but you might be kind of going off in a different direction. Or, it just depends on how they feel. And it's lovely making people feel better.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that adaptability and that understanding is key to working with people. And I think sometimes people might reach out to me and will say, oh, you know, my so-and-so has just been diagnosed and I want to help, like, what kind of movements can I do? And they're sort of thinking straight away about more the asana practice, or like, is there a routine, or what are the do's and don'ts? And apart from a few on the more extreme, so much as it depends. And so as you'll know from the course, I don't teach like a set sequence of like, this is what you do when they have this, and this is what you do when you have that, because everybody's different. But it's more really understanding everything underneath it. So if you understand the cancer and the treatment and the impact and all the things they might need, and then you change the way you do your intake so you get a little bit more information, and like, is this holistic assessment, and then you make the yoga that's good for them. It's like there's not sort of set prescriptions.
Yes, but what was also helpful is in your course was to say, and I can't remember whether this was the whole 7-week yoga for cancer or the breast cancer course, but to say, right, this is when potentially experiencing cancer, then you might be looking at this level of physical movement, and then maybe we come on to this, like the next phase. So you can then say, oh, well, this person's a bit restricted this way, so I'm going to use these little moves here. So that was very useful. You know,
so there are some things around stages of recovery, of like what's more appropriate quite soon after some surgery, and you know, and that will be different to what someone's able to do 6 months down the line. So yeah, there's definitely some guidelines around there. And I know we also talked a lot about, you know, physical modifications you need around range of movement, or if someone has a PICC line in their arm, or, you know, all of these different things. So we definitely look at different ways of working. And I often think, I quite like the analogy of sort of taking a Bruce Lee approach to things, which is that he never sort of followed just one martial art. He sort of learned a lot of them and did a blend of all the things he thought was useful. And I feel like that with the yoga for cancer, it's not a set thing. I draw from all the different trainings that I've done, you know, from yoga for stress and pregnancy yoga, and, you know, yoga for fatigue, and all of those other trainings. Oh, that would be useful for people who've got cancer too. So it's a real blend. And I think, you know, all of us as teachers can do that as well, is that if you've had other trainings, and that's where, when you understand the foundation and the needs and the picture, then you can understand why you would choose that combination of yoga practices that you know for that person, which exactly as you do, like you go, oh, well, I've got a plan, and then something else comes in on the day, and like, oh, okay, we don't need to do that today because they clearly need like a yoga nidra today, or they clearly need to move because they're agitated, or whatever it is.
And equally, I've taken some of your cancer sequences and used them for fatigue, or for chair yoga, or for, you know, other things that I'm doing. So it's a nice blend.
Yes.
It's a really nice fit with Strala yoga. which is the style that I teach. And that also draws on kind of Japanese and Chinese medicine and yoga, qigong and tai chi. So it's like all kind of a nice blend together.
Yes, yes. And that's the thing, is like, I don't, I'm not too rigid on the form. I think if you've got the underlying philosophy and intention and, you know, those kind of concepts, then use the movements that work. Because I just think if you're combining your breath, your consciousness and your body in the same present moment, then for me, that is a yoga practice. And it doesn't have to be the very traditional set poses.
Or the set shape, or
yes, oh god, definitely not the set shape necessarily. So I suppose to put you on the spot a little bit, was there anything that you were sort of surprised to learn? Was there something you didn't know and then you go, oh, that was useful? Or was there like an insight into sort of personal, I don't know, was there something kind of unexpected on the course, like pleasantly unexpected?
Yeah, I mean, going into the biology was really, really useful, and the different types of options, the different types of drugs, the different side effects, that's all really useful. And then together we thought about the whole holistic experience. And to flip on the other side, I wasn't expecting so much business help, which I thought was really good, because not just like reviewing terms and conditions in your website, but areas of opportunity to work with people who are going through cancer or beyond. So I think both sides, I wasn't expecting certainly wasn't expecting the business sides to come in, and that was, you know, really useful. And I remember you asked us to put a resource pack together of all the different kind of services that somebody might either need or might provide some joy, you know, certain community groups and things like that. And that's a really good exercise as well, to have that list, because that's applicable across the board in therapeutic yoga, isn't it? To have that list of resources of other services.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think and again, I think the business side is really important. And I know sometimes there's a real sort of hesitation or block around sometimes talking about the money side of yoga. But also I do feel if people are investing in a training and they want to do the work, then we also need to sort of help people find the work and help develop and build a sustainable teaching practice. And part of that is the financial side of it as well. Because you know, it's not a sustainable practice if we can't pay our bills, and then we can't help people. Like if we're coming from a place of real sort of stress and depletion because we're not making ends meet, we're not going to be in a good place to have that very grounded support to really hold other people. And we really need to, you know, as I'm sure you're feeling it now that you're practicing in that area, is that we always need to hold space for our yoga students, but when they're going through cancer, you just need to be a bit stronger in how you hold, you know, there's a little bit more to it. So yes, it's really nice to hear that that's been useful. And certainly I've had, yes, carry on.
Yeah, I think when it comes to holding space, then for me, I'm thinking about the person and how they're presenting right now, and I'm not focusing on the diagnosis, because that's an outcome. That's, you know, that won't necessarily happen. And I've always got the whole thing myself of I try not to worry about things I can't control. You can put your energy into something you can control instead, and we can help people so much in this space of the emotional side of what they're going through, and that can be incredible for the, you know, I'm terrible at remembering stats, but I know that it's really good for survival outcomes and just outcomes in general.
Yes, no, absolutely. And I think slightly different from just exercise alone. So that like the physical side is important for long-term recovery and preventing recurrence, but also managing like the emotional state and stress and all of those things like have a direct impact on how well someone copes with their treatment, how their body might react to it, how successful it is. Like the mind-body connection is so huge. And again, that's where we can have such an impact for people, and doing something that, you know, the NHS isn't equipped to offer at the moment. I mean, I would love yoga to be part of the overall prescription plan, that they say, okay, here's your surgery, here's your chemo, here's your yoga class. That would be amazing. I think they should look at that because it's very cost effective.
Yeah. Yes.
But yes, so how are you finding working in this field now?
I really love it, actually. I really love it. And just to see the progress that people make over time is just wonderful. Of, you know, and you can look back, or maybe they'll mention like, oh, I could never have done this like however long ago. And
yes,
it's just wonderful to see people blossom again, because I think sometimes when you've been through a really hard experience, you can feel really anxious about life and feel like you're not the person you were beforehand, and want to feel, you know, and live a full life again, but there's something emotional holding you back. And just seeing that whole journey,
yes,
you know, I feel great, and maybe there's another all clear stage, and you know, and sharing that, you know, is just wonderful.
Oh, it is, it's such rewarding work. And you know, and it's lovely to see your face light up and the smile, because I think sometimes people might be a little bit nervous that it's a very sort of heavy, emotional, draining thing to work in, like, oh, you know, working with cancer must be like quite heavy and serious. But I
find
focus
on those heavy things, because it's still, you know, you're still with a person, an individual who's still, you know, they're living a life, and it's supporting them just as you might support somebody going through perimenopause, you know, or somebody who can't sleep well. You know, you're still with somebody, you know, in essence. You don't have to focus on the diagnosis or, you know, the worst side of it at all. That doesn't really bring me down. I'm focusing on bring somebody joy, or put somebody into a nice parasympathetic state.
Exactly. And I often find that classes are joyful because they're so happy to be able to move again, you know, because there might be fear about, like, they might have been really desperate to sort of get back to activity, but they're scared of injuring themselves or making things worse. So to be in a space where they go, oh, I'm allowed to do this, and this is all safe and it's all okay, and then they feel the benefit of the movement and the breath, and they go, you know, I had a lady today in class because I was at Maggie's over lunchtime, and she just looked so different at the end. She went, oh, it was so wonderful that I could do that every day. Like, it's just so nice to move my body again, and now I feel lovely, you know. And that's the nice thing, isn't it? At the end of class, they kind of go, oh, I feel great now.
Yeah, you get instant feedback at the end of each class. You get a really nice, like, oh, I feel so much better. And
yes, absolutely. So I'm just aware of time. I don't know, were there any other things that you wanted to mention or talk about that had come up?
Not really. I think just to say that I've done obviously several of your courses and workshops, and I would say they don't, they're all kind of quite succinct, so it's worth doing all of them if you're interested. Like, it's not going to have some big overlap where you think, oh, I've kind of covered a lot of this in that training or that training. So for example, you know, you've done yoga and trauma podcast with Annetta, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
And yeah, breast cancer. and the yoga and early menopause onset. I thought that was really interesting. And actually I've used some of that as well for menopause, as well as, you know, it doesn't have to be somebody who's experiencing cancer. You know, it's all things that if you're working in the therapeutic space, there's just another library of different things that you can do as well.
Fantastic. Yeah. Thank you. Well, thank you for taking time to come and join me today. It's been really lovely to chat. So before I go, just to give like a little bit of the practical stuff. So currently there is an early bird price at the moment, and that expires, I think, tomorrow. So as of the end of the month, or I lose track of what day it is this week. So yes, so as of the 1st of July, the price is going up to full price. So if you're interested in doing this course, it's a really good time to do it now. And we have a 4-month payment plan, so you can just do the first installment now, get your place, and then that spreads over 4 months, so that can just make it a little bit more manageable. And so we're starting on, so the course runs on Mondays. It'll be from 10 till 1, and the first one is on the 25th of September, and then we run weekly until some point in November, but all the dates are on the website. So we have 9 weeks altogether, because it's expanded a little bit, because there's a little bit more that I wanted to put in, because every time I get feedback and I get ideas, and there's always a little tweak and a little development. But the whole curriculum and how everything works is all up on the website. If you're interested in doing the course and you've got some questions about whether it's suitable for you or not, you can get in touch and we can have a little discovery call. And if you've got some questions you need to ask, I'm very happy to do that. Or if they're very simple questions that you can put in a comment below this, then absolutely just do that and I'll reply in the comments. So either is fine. So we're going to sign off. Wish you all well for the afternoon. The sun's coming back out again. And I look forward to seeing some of you online again soon. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.